America, welcome inside the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham. We're brought to you by the Freedom Chamber. Find us online at freedomchamber.net, the pro-American business network. As usual, I'm joined by Rod Martin, the CEO of Martin Capital and the Martin Report, and we're going to talk about that Martin Report because that pinged my inbox this morning, and I got all giddy as a schoolgirl. And Dean Owen, Owen CPA. Find him online at owencpa.com. Later in the program, we're going to hear from Matt Cody. He is the president of the Oil and Gas Workers Association. We'll bring him on board in a little bit. But first, Rod, I want to talk about the email you sent to my inbox via the Martin Report talking about there will be arrests made. What implications do that have across the board from the business sector to anywhere in America where people are just tired of chomping on nothing burgers when they hear about the Department of Justice?
Well, first, I want to encourage everybody to go to rodmartin.org where they can read this gloriousness for themselves. And not just that, but see some key video clips that everybody needs to actually internalize. The truth of the matter is, Donald Trump did not just go into exile for 4 years, get prosecuted in multiple states, and get shot at a couple of times to do nothing when he gets back in. He spent the last 4 years plotting out exactly every minute of his second term. And the team needed to execute on it because you know very well his team in the first term was just riddled with fellow travelers and traitors. So, Barr comes out 3 days after the election and says, I've thoroughly investigated every aspect of, these allegations of election fraud, and there's nothing to it. He hadn't investigated anything at all. It was just a blatant lie. Chris Wray, his choice for FBI director, is the man who gave the shoot to kill order to the team that raided Mar-a-Lago. If Barron had offered the slightest resistance, they were supposed to kill him in cold blood. This is just horrifying, and this is the level on which the first term operated. They had too many Beltway insiders who were able to hoodwink the outsider president. Well, guess what? He's not an outsider anymore. He knows exactly where the bodies are buried. He knows exactly who's who. He probably gets Washington better than anybody at this point, and he's put together a crack team to go after these people. And they must be gone after. Because if you don't have some consequences for at least some of these people, it will be repeated and we will never have another meaningful election.
You're probably tuning in right now to the Business Pulse going, how does this affect business? I'll tell you how it affects business. Think about what it did to the mental wherewithal of Americans when they're trying to invest. Where does America stand on certain issues? Is this what we are about? Fake dossiers? Am I really going to invest in the future of America? You should, because the Trump administration is going to put the ship back in the water, get the sails full of wind, and off we go. And Dean, I welcome your thoughts on that too, because we hope there's arrests made, because that's the only way you really put a stop to this, the treasonous acts that have been taking place.
James Comer is a close friend, and he's got there's a video on Epoch Times, if you look up James Comer, China, that he talks extensively about how China has infiltrated our government, our bureaucracies, our bureaucrats, and they are using our free speech and our media and weaponize that against us. When I was in the military, I was involved with some propaganda warfare and psychology, psych ops, and we get the same thing happening here. And if you don't hold accountable the people who have committed treason, and that's what this is treason. If you don't hold them accountable, what happens next time? And I know there's a lot of people that say, well, you can't go after your political enemies. You don't go after. What if they committed treason? Are you going to let them do it again? What happens if you don't go after those people? That's my question. It's not a matter of what happens if we do. We save the republic. But what happens if we don't? We just give them another shot.
And you saw the president address that directly yesterday from the Oval Office when he said, look, when I came in the first time, we had Hillary dead to rights. But I made the decision to let her go because it's good for the country. We shouldn't be going after the wife of a president. And then he says, but after what they have put me through, right or wrong, heads got to roll because they've made the new rules. And there is nothing unjust about bringing justice to people who actually tried to carry out a coup d'etat.
And that's the thing about the left. They're always blaming the right for what they're doing. So we hear all about this J6 insurrection. Well, they spent 4 years doing an insurrection. There was 4 long years when President was Trump. And then after he was elected, after he got out of office and they stole the election in 2020, they've continued the prosecution and everything else. So the people that say, well, you can't prosecute your enemies, say, he didn't throw the first punch. He's going to throw the killer punch, but he did not draw first blood.
And you're not wrong to talk about treason, because what we're about to find, we have already found that the Chinese were engaged in printing massive numbers of fake mail-in ballots and fake voter IDs. They weren't doing that idly. That wasn't just a one-off, hey, let's see if this will work. No, they were actually trying to change the outcome of the 2020 election. Not only that, but we now have the Act Blue investigation going full swing. They were taking massive seas of foreign money and had no safeguards whatsoever to check the sources of where these things were from. So you'd have some individual retiree on a pension who gave like 500 donations in the span of a few days to different Democrat candidates. Are you kidding? This isn't real. This is all smurfing. And we've got that investigation going too. We're going to find that China's hands were all over 2020, and we're probably going to find that that was in collusion with senior Democrats who were also part of what happened in 2016.
Which is why they have to go to such extreme cases. It's why they have to just every conceivable, possible, extraneous, stupid position they can possibly take. Yeah, you look at every position they take, they're all bad for America. Well, who is that good for? China, our geopolitical enemies. So it almost, I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but the last 8 years, what we've learned, the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is about 3 weeks.
Well, and in this case, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy. And that's exactly what Kash Patel just launched, an investigation into a grand conspiracy going back a decade, even before the 2016 election. And God help them, because Donald Trump will not. And the grand conspiracy angle gets us past the statute of limitations on a bunch of these crimes. It also opens the door to being able to bring the case in some neutral jurisdiction like South Florida, where you actually have a shot at a fair trial.
What's great about all this is it's going to take us into our next conversation on the other side of the break with Matt Cody, the president and founder of the Oil and Gas Workers Association, because it always comes back to China. How's China manipulating the market? How's China manipulating our politicians? How's China manipulating our energy? We're going to talk to Matt after the break. You're inside the Business Pulse.
Hey, the Freedom Chamber is amazing. I'm so glad that we get to be here on the Freedom Chamber's Business Pulse. This is an organization you should support. It's an organization of which you should be a member. The Freedom Chamber is getting important things done in this country. And honestly, we need spaces for people who believe the sorts of things that if you're watching this, you probably do. We have gone through this extended period of not just canceling individuals, but just boycotting businesses and doing terrible things, debanking. Nigel Farage, who is likely to be the next prime minister of the United Kingdom, was actually debanked by all the major banks in the United Kingdom. And of course that happens here, and we get de-insured and all these terrible things. The Freedom Chamber is fighting for you. The Freedom Chamber is here to make sure that you're protected, that your values matter, they count, and they're in the public square. So I encourage everybody to join the Freedom Chamber.
Welcome back into the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham, joined by Rod Martin and Dean Owen. And we welcome to the conversation Matt Cody, the president and founder of the Oil and Gas Workers Association. Matt, welcome into the program.
Thanks, Chuck. Always grateful to be on.
I'm going to step aside and let the questioning begin on natural gas, oil, drill, baby, drill. Let it all happen. Rod, what do you got for Mr. Cody?
Well, we used to say that America was the Saudi Arabia of coal, but it turns out we're the Saudi Arabia of oil. And not just that, but natural gas, which once upon a time was kind of the filet mignon of energy. And now it's so abundant, it's just crazy. We can power the world. So, all I can say to the oil and gas workers is may your tribe increase, may you double and triple and quadruple, because this is the path to not only energy security, not only for the United States, but for our allies as well. If we supply Europe with LNG, if we supply Japan with LNG, their supply lines are shorter. They are not as vulnerable to our enemies. And moreover, we can cut our trade deficits to nothing. And in the process, enrich Texas, Louisiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Dakota, and maybe the 51st state, Alberta.
Man, you're so right, Rod. President Trump is showing through approving LNG exports and then making these historic trade deals with Japan, Indonesia. Last week, Italy agreed to buy 20 years of USA LNG. But President Trump is putting American workers and families right back in front where we're supposed to be. You're right whenever you talk about how we are sitting on the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. And for too long, we've let OPEC control American markets. But what President Trump is doing is really putting U.S. natural gas to the forefront. You mentioned Japan. Man, that's a great example. Another one, of course, is our friends and allies in Europe. One of the crazy things about the Ukraine-Russia war is that Ukraine had the opportunity. They could have shut off Russia's access to cash anytime during the war by just cutting off Russia's exports of natural gas to Europe, which ran right straight through Ukraine, but they didn't do that. You mentioned freeing our friends and allies from tyranny. We're able to do that with U.S. LNG exports. It's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. And I would just add that we need to really double down on what Donald Trump's doing with small modular reactors and sources of energy that don't burn our oil and gas so we can export it. And we can be the arsenal of democracy in yet another way.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's a big push to go electric on everything. And I happen to own an electric aircraft and all for batteries and using electricity, but we're just not there yet. We cannot power this world on batteries and solar and wind. It's just that is absolute insanity. I think that whole push, there's a part of that's probably coming from China to keep us energy dependent on other nations, because that helps China from being run over so quickly and being outrun. But we've got to have that sector. So what you guys are doing God's work, and everybody loves batteries. We like that kind of stuff. Nobody's anti-electric or anti-battery. It's just we're realist. And we also happen to like electric stuff, but we also like good jobs that pay well and take care of families and let families take care of their kids, and people live well and live the American dream. And that's what you guys are empowering.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead, Rod. No, I was just thanking Dean. I agree. American oil and gas workers work 24/7 to power the nation and fuel the world. Well, y'all are talking about exporting more USA oil and gas. We should absolutely do that. You mentioned small modular reactors, Rod. Whenever you talk to oil and gas people, we know that wind and solar they probably wouldn't even exist if it weren't for the subsidies. And they're mostly imported from Europe and China. They don't create any American jobs, and they make our power grids less reliable. Whereas nuclear, these SMRs, they actually could be a great alternative energy source where we export our oil and gas.
That would be ideal. And look, solar has a real future. It absolutely does. And it's mostly in the future. Wind is just bird blenders. It's awful. We got to get rid of those things. But oil and gas are here to stay. These are energy dense, base load producing energy sources. We need them. We have them, and we can supply the world with them.
Hundreds of years ago, we stopped using wind for transportation and sun for heat. There's a reason, and those reasons still exist.
Absolutely right. You can't make the wind blow and you can't make the sun shine, but American oil and gas workers can get oil and natural gas out of the ground every day, 24/7. So it's reliable, affordable energy.
And
I'm going to jump right in here with you boys real quick. In the mailbag, it dovetails perfectly into what Matt's wheelhouse is and all of your wheelhouses. We got an email from William Jensen of Jensen Landscaping out of Youngstown, Ohio. He's a chamber member. He wants to know when his gas prices are going to start going down. And I emailed him back saying, well, your email and your question is spot on because we're going to have Matt on inside the Business Pulse. So Matt, any insight to that you can shed on it? Oh, did we lose Matt? Oh no, Matt, come on, Matt. Don't do this to me. Rod, do you want to be Matt's surrogate right now?
I'm not sure I'm qualified to be Matt surrogate, but my guess is we're going to see greater and greater movement on prices as we eliminate some of the risk in the Middle East, which we can do largely by increasing production. But a big part of our production problem here is the ability to transport it. We've got a bunch of new pipelines coming online. We need more. We need even more refining capacity than we have. Those things are happening. And Donald Trump will make sure it really does come to fruition.
Yeah, and there are some little known tax or investment opportunities in that sector where you get a huge deduction if you make an investment into the oil and gas fields, and there's and they fit a very narrow profile of investor, but it's something that if you've got big tax bills and big money, and you're rolling around with some big problems, tax problems, they may be a solution, and somebody needs to have a conversation about them.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to vary from state to state. I mean, we're here in Illinois, the dumpster fire in the Midwest, that taxes are just through the roof on anything you see. I've got my cousin that lives outside of Orlando, and he sent me a text today. He goes, look, $1.89 for regular. I shot him one back, $3.69 for regular, but it's all about taxes. But I really wish we could get Matt back on to answer that question. But I just see the future is bright in America when you get all the regulation, all the red tape out of the way. The Trump administration is doing that. We're going to be able to drill. We're going to be able to put more things in natural gas. I remember here in Illinois and around the country, and in California, they tried to make natural gas stoves illegal. So it just shows you where their head is at. That's just another way for China and the tyranny to trap us into a circle that they're just going to spend more of our money uselessly when we've got the resources we need to help families out, to keep prices down. And Matt's a good guy. I highly recommend you follow him online. You can find him at the president. He's the president and founder of the Oil and Gas Workers Association. He's on LinkedIn. His last name is spelled Coday, Matt Cody. I wish he could come back on, but we're limited on time. And gentlemen, I appreciate you being inside the Business Pulse today.
It's good to be here.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. I'm Matt Cody, president and founder of the Oil and Gas Workers Association. Welcome, Freedom Chamber members, and thank you for supporting American workers and American businesses. Want to catch you up on what's going on in the USA oil and gas industry. Not sure if you were paying attention, but under President Trump last week, the rig count jumped by 7. That's the biggest weekly jump in over 2 years. And what that means is that President Trump, through trade deals, is expanding U.S. natural gas production and exporting more U.S. LNG to our friends and allies around the world. What does that mean for every business owner in the U.S.? Well, the oil and gas industry underpins our entire economy. In fact, in 2019, under President Trump, the U.S. oil and gas industry supported 11.3 million jobs nationwide and 7.9% of our nation's GDP. That means more jobs, more people who have money to spend in businesses. And it supports our whole economy. Whenever you talk about severance taxes in many states are what fund roads, schools, hospitals, social programs, and our first responders. We need those. And by extracting the oil and natural gas and being able to export that to countries around the world, we're able to support more people, more jobs, create more businesses, and have more growth in our economy. So that just kind of catches you up. I don't know if you've paid attention to the trade deals, but President Trump and America have signed trade deals with Italy, with Indonesia, a great big one with Japan that will export more USA LNG around the world. I'm Matt Cody from OGWAUSA.com. God bless you, and God bless America.